or good day, listeners, whatever time of day you're listening to. You are back in the virtual bar. I am Jack Lacey, and once again, I've been joined by the Lewises of Tricey and Dawson. I've got myself a beer as standard. Tricey, I'll come to you first, mate. What are you? Welcome back to the bar, first and foremost, and do you have a drink?
I do, mate. Hiya, chaps. How are you both? I'm on the Aldi German homebrew today.
Nice,
So,
on brand. I like it. You're back.
yeah.
You're back to your roots on this one.
On the Aldi Moonshine.
Rheinbacher, it's called. I've not actually
nice.
done a lot of drinking really in 2022, so it's nice to. This beer's been in the fridge months, so it's nice to see it off.
Like a fine wine, getting better with age.
Mm.
It's good to hear the Aldi beers though are still going strong
Yeah.
when you are turning to beers. I must admit, I've been in Aldi a few times recently, and I've paid a bit more closer attention to the beer aisle since like hearing about some of the beers you've had. And
It's only taken Tricey 2 years of plugging them on this.
it's
For you to
quite
finally consider them.
It's just that end aisle really at Aldi. I can't say like I hang about there that long.
No.
So I've never really stopped to have a look, but since Tricey's been showing them off, I've paid a bit more of interest.
What about you two?
Yeah, go on, Dobby.
Yeah, sadly, even despite the hiatus from the bar, I'm on the double concentrate from Morrison's, which is still £1, which I'm pleased to say because I went and bought some earlier. In this time of prices soaring, and I feel like everything I've bought this last week has gone up by like at least 10 pence. Like you name it, like crisps, crumpets, chicken, everything seems to be going up in price. But the double concentrated from Morrison's is still £1. So yeah,
The
holding its
listeners,
value.
they're really getting their recommendations from budget supermarkets over on this podcast. Like, you got multiple options there. Aldi, Morrison's, whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, I'm not drinking tonight, sadly. I would drink if I had something in. Don't have anything other than spirits and no mixers, so that's yeah, I don't want to go down that
On the
path.
hard stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, good to see you both. Nice to be back. And what about you, Jack? What's your tipple tonight?
I'm just on the San Miguel, mate. I was also going to do a sober night, but then a wine with my meal combined with knowing I'll be speaking to you two made me drag out a dusty San Miguel from the garage fridge. But yeah, it's good to be back with you both. It's like it's almost becoming a monthly thing at the moment. I don't want to say it's going to be like that forever, but yeah, tonight's episode is sort of on that theme, isn't it? It's a bit random. We're not sure on what our topic is because we're going to be choosing them as we go. But just before we come on to that, I did want to raise one aspect from the social corner. I think probably a lot of listeners who've been on Twitter this week will have already seen this. But one of the tweets that blew up was a football conspiracy theory that you at least slightly believe in. I don't think have you two not seen this so far?
No. Fire away.
So we've got. I mean,
Before you start, Jack, I'm very gullible for a conspiracy theory, so I'm likely to be on board.
What's your just quickly then, try what outside of football? What's your favourite conspiracy theory? What are you into?
I don't want the hate mail to come in.
I don't think we're big enough to be worried about that yet.
I could be intrigued by any conspiracy theory I could think about and go, oh, maybe, yeah, maybe.
My favourite one is real Paul McCartney died and was replaced by a lookalike.
Yeah.
Not saying that I believe in that. I just think that as a conspiracy theory, that just ticks all the boxes in terms of like batshit craziness, but like bizarre plausibility. The amount of literature that's been written about it. I just think that's a great fucking like.
Jack, can you remember in our sport class at college? I think there was a period where we used to just sit and Google conspiracy theories. And if he was involved in that.
Yeah. When coursework should have been getting done, and we were just like looking really into like, maybe
What was the one
9/11
about the
inside job.
racehorse? What was the one about the racehorse?
Oh yeah.
Maybe like got stolen or I don't know.
I feel like most people are content with like the top 10 of all time, and then you just sort of took it to that next level of just going into the deeper ones that are just barely been touched on before. But yeah, there are some of these football ones that are absolutely ridiculous. So feel free to just shoot them down and instantly dismiss them. I got a heavy. There's a lot of likes for this one. Leicester had some form of doping to win the Premier League. Their injury record during that period is a complete anomaly.
No, I think they actually did well there, Leicester. I'm going to say no conspiracy, if you want my opinion there.
You can get a freaky run of without injuries, can't you? The same that happens just the same way as you can get a freaky run of loads of injuries. So I don't see I'm not sure. Also, who's benefiting from Leicester winning the league? Because if the Premier League wanted it to be like that, would we have not seen it more often? The shock wins. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one. Don't think that's gonna turn many heads in the pub.
I mean, another one I've got is Italy and Spain were robbed against South Korea in the 2002 World Cup. FIFA wanted South Korea to progress to the final. I
think that's got some more legitimacy to it.
Yeah.
If you actually go back and watch, I've done this before. Where you go back and watch the highlights of that tournament.
2002 World Cup review.
Yeah, when Italy are playing South Korea, don't they have 2 goals disallowed and stuff like that? It's just questionable.
I agree with this to a point. I'm not sure if we spoke about this on the podcast already, but that game, Italy have 2 goals ruled off that are completely fine goals, and I think Totti gets sent off for diving, which is just bollocks, especially back in 2002. But what annoys me about that fear is Italy have a chance with 10 seconds to go, Christian Vieri, and he skies it from 2 yards out, and if he'd have just put that in, the conspiracy theory would have been dead in the. Do you know what I mean? They wouldn't have been able to rule that goal out. I don't think so. That's my only issue with that one.
Yeah, I like that one I'd back that as a little bit of a conspiracy.
This is perhaps a better one. I just like this for the comedy value. Bayern Munich are required to get beaten by some random team every now and then just to keep the race going.
That is good.
Yeah, I like that. Because they do get a freak result every now and then. You're like, where the fuck's that come from?
Every 6 months it's Hoffenheim or I don't know, but Hertha Berlin. Someone dick them 4 or 5-1, and it's just you just think, what's going on there? Any Bundesliga officials can get in touch to dismiss that. I'm just trying to say, are there any you two that you two have thought about before that?
Reel a few more off if you got any to hand.
The Barcelona PSG game was fixed. The 6-1 comeback game. That's got 2,000 likes. That's quite popular, it seems, with people.
That was pretty amazing, but that wasn't fixed, was it?
I mean, how could you? I sort of think if you're going to try and fix a result, it's always a 0-0 or a 1-0, isn't it? Rather than fixing high scoring is just too difficult. I must
admit, I'm surprised that a lot of these conspiracies are actually on the pitch conspiracies. I thought there'd been more people around, the other things that surrounding football. That or the dodgy corruption side that obviously does kind of happen, but some pretty rogue stuff around that. On the pitch stuff, I think the amount of games that get played year in year out, there's going to be some freak incidents, aren't there? Passes
I've got one. I've got one that's come to a head. It's Lasagna Gate. That was an iconic one, wasn't it?
Wait, was this?
What are you saying? You're saying that it didn't. What is the conspiracy part of it? That Tottenham were just shit, and that you don't believe or you believe the Lasagna Gate?
I believe that the chef of the hotel must have been an Arsenal fan.
Really?
Anti-Spurs in some capacity. Yeah. I feel it was a
just
sabotage.
Didn't like Spurs. Just had an Arsenal fan. Just had a real hatred for Spurs.
Because that is, I don't think it's happened since where a team has needed to win in the last game of the season and 8 players get ill that morning.
True. Yeah, that is true.
That's a good one.
I think Hossam Ghali was one of the few Tottenham players that wasn't affected by it.
Jermaine Defoe as well, I think.
Carrick was one of the ones hanging out his ass, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he was their best player
on
at the time.
Yeah. I've got another one here. Dobby, I'm interested to get your thoughts on this one. Marcelo Bielsa can speak English very well. He just CBA talking to our media.
I think that's got quite a bit of substance behind it. I think he obviously. I'm sure his spoken English isn't as strong as mine or many other like even foreign coaches in the Premier League, but he obviously has the ability to communicate with people quite like one on one well
Yeah,
enough. But when he joined when he joined Leeds, I think his whole point was he didn't want to do any kind of media coverage, or if it was going to be like just pre-match in a press room, no like one-on-one stuff. But then, obviously, as part of the contracts with Sky, you have to do like your post-match, and I think it was more in a way to just make sure that there was no like blurred lines and just if I've got to do it, I'll do it, but it's going to be done like this. And I think it just kind of kept rolling over like that. So. Yeah, interesting. But I think Pochettino did it a little bit, didn't he? As
I
well
was
at
going
the
to
beginning.
say,
He did,
yeah.
He always said he's not speaking English until he feels confident, didn't he? That he's not going to get caught out like in a lost in translation type thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Don't know if it's conspiracy. I'd say it's just the truth, sadly. But I wish it was a bit more
Yeah, it's less
mysterious than
interesting
that.
when it's just true. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny. This one might be a good one. The yellow card for removing your shirt is in place to ensure shirt sponsors maximise their screen time.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, that makes sense actually, doesn't it? Like that's when you're going to have a lot of cameras on the shirt.
Because
So
it's daft that they even like still
Go on.
book him when, you know, we was the example. Matty Cash was the example the other day, wasn't he? He put a message like, shout out, stay strong, brother. It was someone who was in Ukraine who he's played with
yeah,
for
Yeah,
Poland, I
so
think.
it's not like they're just taking the shirts off to like wind up fans and opposition, and it's a
No,
safety
like they
thing.
used to do. He's not doing like a
Yeah.
Reese swinging it around his head type thing. He's actually putting a statement out there, and I feel like
Yeah.
to even still get a yellow card just seems odd. I think.
Yeah.
yeah, that is ridiculous.
Sorry, I won't get. I'll only do a couple more. We're moving on to the good ones now. Crystal Palace never actually had a promotion season. They just appeared in the Premier League all of a sudden. I'm with this. I'm back in this one.
Yeah.
Any footage of Crystal Palace winning a championship game the year before is bollocks. This is.
Yeah.
They did just appear out of nowhere.
You know what? That is true. I can't remember. I can remember like Bournemouth going up. I can kind of remember like Brighton and stuff.
Yeah,
but-
vaguely. Yeah.
like Palace.
No, Palace were just there. Suddenly they were there. And they had like Wilfred Zaha. Just
Yeah,
being all Crystal Palace.
I like that.
Yeah, I think that'll probably there's plenty more of those, but it's kind of similar to what we're going to do tonight because we haven't had like a lot of preparation for this. As I say, it seems every episode now, but tonight's episode is even possibly more random than usual because our topics are going to come from what are we calling it, Trice? The roulette wheel, or have you got a
Wheel
more
of
jazzy
Death.
name for it? The wheel of death.
Yeah, the wheel of randomness.
So basically, how many categories have we got on there? 12 or so?
Yeah, yeah,
A dozen?
12
Also
or
known.
13 it looks like, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, Trice is going to spin the wheel, and whatever comes out, we're gonna do our best. I mean, this might be a disaster, but I mean, it hasn't stopped us up to this point so far on this podcast. So yeah, Trice, if do you want to spin the wheel for the first time tonight?
Quick question.
Yeah, I'll share my screen so you can see. Yeah.
I have a question. Is it is it like an allotted time to each point, or just until we've kind of done it?
Some will be quick fire, I think, but some will require a bit more of like for example, one of them is Bielsa discuss. That will require a bit more conversation.
Yeah.
What's
Some
the
will
one
be a
that
bit
says
more
first?
rapid fire.
Yeah.
First Englishman. First Englishman. ... I like that.
Just who was the first Englishman?
I like that. Yeah.
There's a word in
On
there.
Earth.
It'll pop up the full answer afterwards. I mean, that makes no sense on audio, but basically, like, it's a wheel and there's only a certain number of characters that can be displayed, but once it's selected, the full answer will pop up.
It's a beautiful wheel. I think we should tweet this out with the episode or put it on as
The wheel.
the graphic.
Hashtag the wheel.
Actually, yeah. Forget Michael.
Right, should we have a
McIntyre.
first spin then?
Go for it,
Yeah.
Trice.
Spin to win.
You spin me right round, baby. Right.
Oh, this is going to be.
Is it
Ooh.
new Champions League format?
Oh,
Discuss.
This is
nice
an
easy one
interesting
to
one.
break in with.
Okay, so I'm gonna get started because I saw this last week and I was out when I read about it, and I've not really gone back and looked at it since. So I don't think I fully digested like how it's gonna work. It like blew my
No.
mind a little
Do,
bit.
do you
Like
want?
none of the maths seemed to add up to me, but I just knew I didn't like it.
Do,
So if someone can give a good
I was going to
overview,
say, do you want me to go through the main bullet points of what UEFA are proposing for this new Champions League format, in case
yeah.
listeners haven't already seen this? So, from the season 2024 to 2025, the Champions League is going to have 36 teams included from the group stage onwards, up from 32, which it is at the moment. But the group stages are going to be replaced entirely by one big league table. Each team plays 10 games in the first phase, 5 home, 5 away. This will make 100 additional games in the tournament overall. And the top 8 sides in that league go through to the knockouts automatically. But then this is the bit that I don't get. Teams finishing 9th to 24th place will compete in a 2-legged playoff to secure their path to the last 16. So essentially, this 36-team league is going to knock out 12 teams. And then if you're in 24th, you've still got a great chance of winning it. I mean, it's just like,
I don't
we
get
can't
that.
have
Jack.
anyone
So
backing for it.
How do they play 5 at home, 5 away, but there's 36 in there?
So they
I
play,
pre-
they play like a third of the teams essentially,
I
don't
presume it's going to be seeded so that. To be fair, if I'm wrong on this, apologies because this will be dead air. But I presume what I gathered from it was it's going to be seeded. So like a Real Madrid, their 10 games won't be, get all against Barcelona, Chelsea, Manchester City, Bayern Munich. They'll have like one game against those teams, one game against the second pot, third pot, and so on. So they'll sort of.
That is shite.
I'd imagine that's what it'll be to favour. Otherwise, the bigger teams could get screwed over by a shit draw, couldn't they? And if they have to play 9 really hard teams, they could end up getting knocked out. So, yeah.
But I'm for that. It's not going to happen. But my views on what would make the Champions League better, because the big clubs are moaning that they play too many pointless games already, don't they? Like, they play fucking Copenhagen and teams like that aren't going to win it. But by adding extra teams and playing more games like that, I just think go back to a straight. It's not going to happen for money reasons, but it's unseeded, straight knockout. 32 teams, treat it like the FA Cup, 2 legs. I think that would be brilliant.
The old school European Cup format would,
Yeah, I think it's the best format. Like, you can still have your 4 English teams in there, like 4 from each league or whatever.
Yeah.
But just do an unseeded straight knockout.
So your issue, Trice, is more you don't like the league format in general of the
I think
Champions
it's too
League.
long. I think
Even now, even the current format.
I think it is. I think it.
So is it because some people obviously have got that they don't like the fact that it's not just it's called the Champions League, but it's not like champions out in it really, are they? Like the majority of teams aren't winning their league. So
I think the issue I have with it is that there's too much of an obvious gap at the group stages. Like you get the same 12 teams progress to the last 16 every tournament, really. I know Barcelona haven't this year. However, I think like when was the last time you actually saw, like
before Barca, yeah.
I think there's always like two groups where you're like, oh, that's 2 groups where you think that's going to be interesting. It looked like Liverpool's group this year. Obviously, they kind of were fine in the end, but you did look at it and think, this is the group of death. There's a chance they can't get through. And then there's the other groups where a random team will go on a bit of a good run and look to take second place ahead of, say, Juventus or Barcelona. But that's only probably 20% of or 30% of like all those leagues. The rest of them do kind of remain pretty irrelevant, other than that one fixture where it's like first v second, and you're like, oh, like this is going to be an interesting game. But it's like the City
Well, they'll both go through,
PSG. Yeah, it's like the City PSG legs in the group stages. Like brilliant, 2 obviously great teams, but you kind of want to see that when there's more on the line. Like both them teams are going through. I think the game at City they were both already through, and it's like, okay, well, there's not a huge amount to lose here, is there? So
Yeah.
so what happens? Like, what's the point, kind of thing. So yeah, it does just seem to heat up in the knockout stages, doesn't it? And I mean, the Champions League as it is, the knockout stages is great. Like, I'd watch probably every game if I could, because it does get really competitive at that point. But from a group stage perspective, I probably only watch what are only the English teams that I think are in a competitive game. Even if it was like Inter Milan versus Real Madrid, which obviously is a knockout, I'd be all up for. But as a group game, I'm not really gonna watch that.
The last, I mean, I'm probably just bringing this up for sentimental reasons, but the last time my club, Newcastle, and your club, Dobby, were in the Champions League and progressing, the format was the double group, the two group stages.
I was going to mention that.
Which now, like, obviously at the time, this was criticised enough to make UEFA change it back to the original just group stage format. But isn't the two group stage format now the perfect sort of, compromise between where all these are coming from? Because I would certainly prefer that to this 36 team league with not everyone playing each other. I think the two group stage format, yes, you still don't get as much drama as the knockouts, but it's giving them more games, which is what all these big teams want. More TV money, greater exposure for the Champions League as a competition, etc. And I just think, there were still some exciting games in the second group phase when we managed to qualify for it. But
yeah, I was actually going to mention that. I don't know. It's tough to say, really, but I think you're right. I think to me, it probably stands out as being a better alternative at the moment, in terms of you have that typical initial group stage, and then it's followed up by what's going to be a bit more of a competitive group stage, where you're then starting to look at some big fixtures. But yeah, I don't know. It still blows my mind, really, the structure of it. I think until I see it in action, it's going to be tough to comment.
I don't
want to sound too much like a typical human of like not embracing change. But when I first saw it, I did think this just really doesn't surprise me, and it just doesn't look great at all. But yeah,
2 years is a long time in football, though, isn't it? Without sounding cliche, like, it wouldn't surprise me if it just got completely canned.
Well, I was going to say, we've still got Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Juve still gearing up for the next proposal of the Super League. So
yeah.
you don't know, do you? But I mean, the top. You see, the problem is, it's like they'll be playing each other more. PSG might want to play Real Madrid more, or Liverpool, but then you're playing each other more, and then there'll be nothing on those games. If they're still going to qualify. So
we should spin the wheel.
Spin the wheel
for another topic.
Let's go for another. It's the category. It's the category that we dreaded. Oh,
first English manager to win the Premier League, because, as you both know, at the minute we don't have anyone.
The way you delivered that, Trey, sounded really like sort of you're a member of the FA, like disappointed with the standard of coaching. At the moment, we don't have anyone.
You're the FA's conspiracy meeting, right? We need an English winner. Who we picking to win next year?
Well, it's obviously hard when the man that dominated was Scottish. So
yeah, there's something in that, though, I think, about Scottish managers, just being better than English managers generally across the board. Like, I do think there's something in the water with them, or like I think Carragher said it before as well. It's like the tone of their voice might be able to get a message across better. I'm not sure, but yeah, first English manager to win the Premier League. The weird thing is, like, an English manager, Howard Wilkinson won the last non-Premier League title, didn't he? Yeah. And he was English, and then sort of just coincidence, I guess. But I don't know. What are you two thinking?
Well, I think there's only one candidate, I think, at the minute. I think Gerrard, probably. I think if he does a good job at Villa, I think he's probably already fancying his job at Liverpool, isn't he? Yeah. I think he's going to be the one in the strongest position, I believe. Eddie Howe, I don't think he's going to be there to compete at Newcastle to win the title, Jack. I don't know about your views.
Broke my heart there. But
I think he'll be beheaded at dawn.
he'll be beheaded before lifting title.
Yeah, so That's the only one I can think of really.
I mean,
I,
oh, go on, Dobby. Sorry.
I was going to say I prefer the idea of Steven Gerrard winning it with Danny Ings bagging 25 goals for Aston Villa next year. Tyrone Mings have an absolute blinder of a season next year.
We suspiciously get a few injuries, and then in a few years' time, it's a new conspiracy theory. Aston Villa's title.
I think Gerrard's a great shot, really. Like, yeah, because realistically, there's not going to be anybody in the next 3 or 4 years, is there? At the moment, there's no one near
No.
the hottest, like the best managers on the market who are English is probably Graham Potter, other than Gerrard, and I think Graham Potter is it's like it's one of them where you can probably see him not never getting one of them big moves. It just doesn't seem like it will appeal to anybody, especially like Spurs is probably as close as he's going to get. It feels at this moment in time to managing like a big club, and obviously that doesn't then spark like you think don't come to mind like title wins. So I think Gerrard's the only one at the moment. Like Lampard obviously isn't really up to much and didn't do a and left Chelsea. So I think the only people who have like a pathway to get into that elite level at the moment who are English is probably Gerrard. Because I'd agree as well. Eddie Howe, I think will be long gone before Newcastle like get up there. So
The Geordie
yeah,
Embassy.
yeah. Sean Dyche, you never know. Burnley keep keep that big lad fit up front.
If Ben Mee has a really good season, like a Wes Morgan-esque season,
Yeah.
then Daichi could be there. Here's my suggestion, my random to throw into the mix. I don't know whether you'll accept this or not, but when he was playing, Mikel Arteta technically could have been called up for England. So
I don't accept that.
I'm saying Arsenal win the league in a couple of years. I'm classing Mikel Arteta as dual citizenship. He's the first English manager to win the league.
He's not winning a Premier League, surely. With
I remember that phase though where he nearly got. There was rumours he was getting an England cap, wasn't there?
Well, I always did it on my Football Manager. If I was in charge of England, I'd always call up him and Manuel Almunia.
Almunia,
Yeah, and I enjoyed doing that, regardless of whether it was the right thing to do or not.
Nice.
But
Almunia.
That's when David James is crying.
Almunia actually scored a last-minute equaliser as well. Came up for a corner for me in a World Cup group game and drew 3-3. Can't remember.
Oh, wow.
Kudachini was another one
That's
actually
fucking
that was eligible, but you'll have to look into that.
God, Kuda, yeah. How's he not got a call up at some point for? I suppose he's Italy, isn't he? But still, yeah.
Right.
Let's spin this wheel.
Just to round off on that, it really puts into perspective, doesn't it, that there's not a huge amount of English managers knocking around in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'd have to be Gerrard.
This is why I like the scene out of Mike Bassett where they're trying to
Trying to
think
pick
of
the
an
next
English
English
manager
manager.
is not dated at all in 20 years since that film came out. 'Cause it's still the same situation. It's like this is why we end up having to either go lower league, someone not deserving of the job, or look at an overseas coach.
Right. I'm spinning the wheel again, guys. Here
Go
we
on,
go.
Trice.
I like this one. Strange nicknames of clubs or players. Go.
Nicknames is always a good one. An unofficial nickname, the best one's got to be Hartlepool, the Monkey Hangers. But they have a mascot who's a monkey as well, don't they? So
Really?
they embrace that like unofficial nickname.
But surely the mascot should be not a monkey because they're the monkey. Do you know what I mean? It's like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess for anybody who isn't like aware of this this kind of like relationship, basically Hartlepool, I don't know when it was, years ago, like many years ago, a monkey was washed up on the shores of Hartlepool, and the local people had never seen a monkey before and didn't know what it was, or so kind of come to the assumption it was a German spy. So I think they hung it like publicly hung the monkey in the town square, and then ever since then they've kind of just held on to this nickname as the Monkey Hangers for hanging this monkey that washed up on the shores of Hartlepool. And now they have a mascot who is a monkey. And I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but and you can Google it, and there is articles on it. when I was younger and I was at a Scunthorpe United game, the Hartlepool Monkey mascot got kicked out and he got banned from football grounds for groping women. So he was touching
I
up,
wasn't
which
expecting
I know
that as a curveball.
and I know you
That's
shouldn't
obviously
like
not
laugh.
funny.
I know, but I couldn't really remember that well. And for some reason, my mum, like my mum remembers. She must have been there or like read the newspaper, and she was like, "Can you remember when the Hartlepool Monkey got banned from Glanford Park?" And I was like, "No." So if you Google it, there is an article on it from like 2004 in like the Scunthorpe Telegraph. So that's bit of Hartlepool history for you there.
Bit of trivia for you there. Oh, Tricey, have you got any? Can you top that? I'm struggling to top that.
I don't think I can, no, but with nicknames, I always like the player focused ones. So like I'm talking the days before like mass data and scouting and like where for example Marian Pajas just gets plucked from Latvia and ends up at Southampton and
Yeah.
like gets a nickname, the Latvian Michael Owen. Like you don't
Yes.
you don't know his goal record. Wikipedia's not a thing. It's just like, oh yeah, he's a striker. He's about 5'4", Latvian Michael Owen.
Like that.
I feel Chef Wednesday as a club like embraced this philosophy. Quite a few. My mate, who was a Wednesday fan, he always used to say, "Oh, what was his name? Sergio Bus is the Romanian Wayne Rooney." I think he used to say.
Wow, okay. I love this, like, just attaching a random player on the end of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
what links has Bus got to Rooney? Like, it's, even in playing style, very little.
Best footballer nickname I can remember is got to be Papa Bouba Diop, Wardrobe,
Yeah, that is hard
For-
to beat.
from Fan Zone. Oh, what a great program.
What a
What a
great
great,
concept.
what do you call it? What a program? Like
Sort of just
Yeah,
commentary,
it's
an
like a feature,
add-on.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, Wardrobe. Another interesting nickname that I once heard was Richard Hines for Scunthorpe called Zimmer Frame. Don't know why that is, but good one.
Lack of
Back
mobility,
on
I
the
presume.
Probably he was always injured, so maybe that's why. Back to the clubs. I always quite like Chesterfield's nickname, the Spyrites. I
Yeah,
like that
yeah,
because it's
yeah.
got the if you go to Chesterfield, they've got the crooked
Very
spire, haven't
fitting.
they?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think I like that. I like Lincoln's as well, the imps. I like these little connection, like the Lincoln imp,
With the
the imp at
yeah, that's true.
the cathedral that they've got.
Mm.
So I think they're good traditional solid nicknames rather than some of like the off the cuff ones that I feel like you sometimes get. Like, I'm trying to think of an example now.
In terms of like a terrible player one that I never understood, like why was Paul Ince nicknamed the Governor? Because it's like whenever you think of like like the Governor, like it's your stereotypical governor who gets called that is like a hard man, Cockney, like big guy. It's just not who I expect for Paul Ince, who's like the least sort of intimidating person.
Yeah, what about in terms of like recent ones as well? Aspilicueta's nickname of Dave
Dave.
is pretty good. I like
Davis,
that.
yeah, that's good.
Who was the Man United fullback as well who had like one of these nicknames? Like they all referred to him as just. I can't remember which player it was. It might be like Portuguese, but they just called him like a really common British name. Like it was his first name, shortened, and it was just a real common name. I can't remember what it was now. Oh, I don't know. I'll come back to you on
I
that.
can't think. I actually can't think.
Right.
Should we move on?
Well, yeah.
Nicknames.
Move on.
Oh, this is a good one. Bielsa, discuss. I feel there's only one person to start us off here, really.
Yeah. We'll keep it brief as well, rather than exhausting it. But yeah, I don't know. It's been a really interesting one because it was genuinely like really, really sad when he went. Like I think the whole
Yeah.
Leeds fan base has been like mourning him, which is obviously he's not died, but it does feel like a big
You've
part of
sacked
the
him.
club has gone. Yeah. But I think it just puts into perspective like the way we kind of got the chance to enjoy football over the last 4 years. Like we have played some good stuff, we had a bit of success, and I think even without the success and even like the chance of going down, it doesn't. It all kind of makes you realise that it just doesn't necessarily all matter because it was just good fun and he was just a good guy and like there was just a really good feel about everything. And I think it was when and it was all. I think everyone knew that at some point it would come to an end, but you never really want to like think about that and you never really want to like think what's going to come beyond it. But I think because it happened quite abruptly and no one was really like, I think everyone thought it'd be like a perfect handover, like stay up this season or have another season and then someone will come in. Probably Jesse Marsh would have come in. It sounds like they had him lined up, but yeah, I think that just the way it ended made everyone a bit like shocked and saddened, really. And yeah, like we move on and football carries on and stuff, but I think it did make me think, and I think a lot of people by the looks of it, like by the looks of it as well, that I think realizing that we've probably just enjoyed like a period of Leeds United. Like, not to say, obviously, we only got promoted and stayed in the Premier League, but for us, that was a big achievement after a long time. But I think just the way the club was like managed and handled and like the way they played and like just the feel around the place, I don't think we'll really get that again. And yeah, it just makes me think like, will I ever really be able to enjoy football in that way for a while? I don't think I probably will. So
Do you think it
yeah.
was the right time for him to go
Um, so it's one
on
of them where like I think
results?
everyone would say something had to change in terms of results, but I don't think anyone necessarily wanted to say that he had to go. I think I'd have stuck with him till the end of the season, and what will be. Um, but I think he would definitely have gone at the end of the season anyway. I think that was the plan. I'd have probably stuck with him, but something did need to change. And like with Bielsa, it's not really going to be him. It's not going to be his tactics, and it's. I think it's not had it easy this season because we had a lot of like key injuries. Bamford missed like all the
Yeah,
seasons.
huge injuries.
Phillips has missed most of the season. Cooper's missed half a season. He works with a small squad, so like you feel the strain of that a lot quicker than other clubs will. But I think he would have had it in him to pick 3 or 4 victories, like wins out of the remaining fixtures. We've got some like games at home where you're thinking they're Bielsa games that'll win, and I think it all turns really looking back on that Newcastle game, Jack. I
I
think
was going to say that I was actually speaking to a Leeds fan I know really well yesterday, and he was saying the same thing. We both kind of said like, yeah, wow, that January game, which could have really gone either way. It
mm,
was a real sort of open but close game as
yeah,
well. Like, your keeper's kind of thrown one in off the Shelby free kick, and it's like that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a big moment in both clubs' seasons now.
yeah.
It seems. Yeah.
At half time, I was like, well, first half we were the much more comfortable team, and it was a lot of kind of balls on the edge of the box firing across, and like no, we didn't have a recognised striker on the pitch, so there's no one in there to just actually like be in a position to like get on the end of anything.
Mm.
But at half time, I was thinking we should be winning this game. Like if we don't come away from this with a win, then I'll be a bit disgruntled. And then as the second half went on, it just seemed to get a bit like nothing's gonna. It's just not gonna come. This isn't gonna happen. And then to concede as well, I think that you just knew at that point, like definitely not. If we've not been able to get any like score whilst being on top for 70 minutes, then
Mm.
there's no chance we're gonna get anything now. The game's got beyond us. And I think from that point, if we won that game, we'd have probably moved. I don't know how many points, clear points, sadly, and since then downhill. But yeah, on terms of just from me then on the Bielsa, like yeah, um, it's still a bit sore, but it's it's just been a really good 4 years with him in charge. I think it's been quite refreshing in like the modern day football world to enjoy it in quite like a authentic and old fashioned way. Really, is really like I don't know how closely you guys follow him or like some of the stuff he does in and around the club and like his external stuff as well. But he's just a really good guy, and
Yeah.
like I think that's you just don't really
No, that
get
that
people
really
like
comes
that
across.
at football anymore. And
No.
one of the podcasts I listened to, they did a like an episode where people like um sent voice recordings into their stories of like meeting him or like experiences in football and like his influence on them. And there's some really interesting ones, like some of the like meetings, like sometimes people have met him or like wrote to him or he's like wrote to them, like encountering him in public and stuff. And he's just a really fascinating person, like obviously a really successful person, but really fascinating. And I think from that point, if won that game, we'd have probably moved. I don't know how many points, clear points, sadly, and since then downhill. But yeah, it's the most just like simple and authentic guy. So I think it's just that whole mystery around him that we'll miss.
Yeah, he was though. He's a one-off, like a genuine one-off, and you don't get many of them left in football management. It seems now. I think everyone's sort of both tactically and how they present themselves to the media has kind of moved in a certain direction, and he's still a one-off. And like I remember Pochettino when he was like asked, do you? Because obviously he played under Bielsa and like followed it. He was asked like, do you follow him in terms of tactically? And he's like, no, I love him, but I don't follow him because it's like if you play that way, it's right on the edge, and you sort of you're committing yourself to potentially what's happened over the past couple of months. But I still think I agree with you. I think that I don't think it wouldn't have been certain, but I don't think he wouldn't have been able to get the points required between now and the end of the season. I think the injuries have played a massive part in what's happened the last few weeks. So,
Yeah, it's all like what could have been that Newcastle game, the injuries, and it's fine lines. And
but it's interesting as well, isn't it? No fans were calling for his head at that Tottenham game. I'm sure they might have been individually like wanting a change, but then like in terms of support from the crowd, they stayed with him right to the end. I think that shows class, like, and sums up how much he did for that club.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's tough. Everyone knew something needed to change. I think the last thing anyone wanted to see was it being him that had to go. But it is what it is. We move forward. But an interesting one is someone pointed out on one of the podcasts I listened to a while ago about either a Newell's fan or another fan of the club that Bielsa managed, and referred to as their like fan base like refer to themselves as like widows of Bielsa, and it's like if you've been managed by him. I think it's like the Chilean national team, their fans, and it's like if you've been managed by him and then he leaves, like he kind of like you do feel a little bit widowed, like you've just got this really unique experience of football that you're not going to have. And I think that's why so many people kind of like continue to follow him, and you get a lot of Newell's Old Boys fans who would travel to Ellen Road, because not for Leeds but for him, basically, because it's just an interest in what he's doing, and I think that's really fascinating. So sad to see him go, really, really sad. But Jesse Marsh is going to win us European titles, so it's all right.
Every cloud. Tricey, do you want to
you summed that up well there, Tubby, I've got to say. You can really... I do. Newcastle United, discuss.
God.
Start with the overhead kick.
Let's go back to 2006. Simpler play.
Summarise since January, Jack, because I think the last time one of the most recent episodes we were talking about how interesting the transfer window was for Newcastle and how it could be season defining. It's paid dividends, it seems.
It has in some ways, but I think it's, to be fair, the thing that surprised me is it's not really been the transfer window's only been sort of a minor part, really. It's like, what I probably didn't give Howe credit for when he was appointed was his ability to improve the play or work out a system that got the best out of players, because there's so many players that look completely transformed. And our best, the signing that made the most difference to me watching the team was obviously Trippier. Just like, it's weird watching someone that good come into a team at the bottom of the league, because he just raised standards instantly and was so comfortable on the ball, was so good on the ball. He's basically been injured for like the past 4 games. He's going to be out for most of the season now. Like he played sort of 3 league games after signing, or 3 or 4, and then he got injured. So it's more like the improvement of players like Ryan Fraser and like
Joe Linton. Joe
Linton is basically the greatest central midfielder I've ever seen play, and it's I can't remember an improvement from anyone else. I can't remember not just at Newcastle, at any club. When's the last time someone improved? I'd be interested to know if there's like a similar comparison of someone who's had a story of being like so despised and just so shunned off, so written off as just incompetent. And then
let's move him back 10-15 yards, see if he's any good. Fucking hell, he's all right.
Absolutely. I was at the game on Saturday. It's like, it's not even like just nothing can go wrong for him at the moment. It's like, like you're in that mood where it hits him, but it'll just bounce perfectly off his. Yeah. He's not even trying to control, and he's so strong. He just moves people out of the way with ease. It's like I've honestly, I can't remember a central midfielder for him for Newcastle. I probably have to go back to like Gary Speed or someone like that for like the physical presence in midfield. Like he's phenomenal. And that's been the impressive thing for me. It's like obviously some signings made a difference. Well, like Trippier when he played, and Dan Burn's an upgrade.
Yeah, I was going to say he's getting a lot of plaudits at the minute. Dan Burn. I've not watched them closely.
No,
but
he looks
like
really
he's doing
good.
a good job.
I mean, again though, it's all built around him, sort of our style, and it's amazing. How have we still got like John Joe Shelby in the team after all these years? He's still plodding away. But no, it's good at the moment. It's a good time to be there, really.
Well,
in the league.
Yeah. Going into like next year, then, in terms of thinking ahead, you stay up. What would your approach be in terms of like this squad of players? Say they kept, obviously not going to keep winning games at the rate they are, but say they finished the season relatively strongly. Would you be then thinking, right, that squad has kept us up, but we now need to like move on from that quite quickly and start to think about, even from them like new signings, who we're going to replace almost like immediately? Or would you think this should move slowly, and we should continue to kind of just like make a few additions?
I think there's like a sort of middle ground in there. I'm thinking sort of when City first started to ascend, it's like they had to have a few transfer windows of they were signing good players, but it's like they weren't always making a great team. You can't make a great team overnight, can you? You can't sign. You could sign like, even if you signed like the best 8 players in, you picked out 8 positions you wanted to improve, and then you signed whichever player you wanted. It's still how they're going to bounce off each other. Like, how the team's going to fit as a package. I don't think it's as easy as. So yeah, I think any transfer window, I think if you sign more than like 3 or 4 starting 11 players, you're in danger of just too much upheaval. I think.
I'd 100% agree with that, and like I think that will be the approach. I don't think. I think.
They're not going to go mad.
Just when you get caught up in the whole social media like posts of Newcastle, I think people's almost expectations are overnight. They're just all of a sudden going to have like 18 new players in the squad, and it's like it just doesn't work like that in any sport.
No.
Like that just wouldn't work. So yeah, I think that looking back on January now, I remember at the time thinking, I really wasn't sure about the signings. I didn't know if they had enough in them to actually pull them away from the relegation zone as well as they have, but it has really paid off, and I don't think that's just the signings. I think obviously it's got to go down to the existing players. Like John Joe Shelby's decided to like turn up in quite a few games. Ryan Fraser's like had a big contribution as well. So I think it's got to go down to like Eddie Howe and some of the existing players. I think a few of the games I've seen them play, I think what they've done quite well. It's almost what Wolves remind me of. And it works, and I think some people call it like game management, but I think when you're in a position of like you're in front, or like there's a valuable point where minutes can just almost like tick away for an opposition team and just feel like they've not had any kind of like great opportunities in the game, and I feel like Wolves do that really well. Like you could like last 20 minutes in a game for Wolves, I feel like they can just close that out really well. Like the ball,
we did that against
on
Brighton
pitch
on Saturday. Like they didn't have any real chances in the last quarter of an hour, even though they're chucking everyone forward.
I think against West Ham, did you draw against West? No, you beat West Ham away.
We drew 1-1. That was again we drew.
Yeah. But again, so I watched that and I just thought the ball was either out of play, there was someone down, or like you just had the possession of the ball. And a lot of
our fans are saying that. They're saying like they're happy to see us finally being good at like shithousery, because like for so long we've had no one who's like mean enough to do that. Like you sometimes need a player to just like know when to commit a foul, or just like make sure there's a clash of heads, that sort of thing. Like it sounds bad, but that's what you need these days. So
when you're trying to pull away from a relegation zone, I guess you got to do what you got to do.
Jacob Murphy was out on loan at Sheff Wednesday 2 years ago and like completely farmed off, and he's now playing week in, week out and looking decent. It's just the turnaround's mad. But I will say this now: we've got 4 away games in a row starting as we record this tomorrow night.
Bloody hell, that's Sunday League stuff.
I know, 4 away games in a row. This is what getting games postponed over COVID gets you, mate. This is where you end up. So we could easily, I wouldn't surprise me to see us pick up 1 or 2 points, or even lose all 4, and then you're back. You're not back to square one, but you're still very much in the in the scrap.
Next.
So yeah, it's still a long way to go. But as we record, I think
Should we have one more or two more?
one for the road, Trice. Let's go. One more.
One for the road. Final point then, bit of randomness. Will Harry Kane surpass Alan Shearer's Premier League record?
Ooh.
So what's Kane on now? About Shearer's
Whoa.
260, is he? Is that right?
Yes.
260, yeah. Didn't Harry Kane go to 176 or something this week?
Yes, I think that's correct, Trice. Yeah.
Let's get without
Get it
doing
up, get the stats
maths, Without doing, I was gonna just kind of do some quick
Harry Kane Premier
calculations.
League goals.
Yeah, I think he is, because how old's Harry Kane, do you reckon? 27?
He is 28, isn't he? I think now.
28,
Just dead
okay.
air for anyone who knows. Yeah, he's 28.
So I'd say if he stays in the Premier League, which I think he will, because I think he himself now must be thinking one eye on that. I don't know. And to be fair, if Real Madrid came and offered you a lot of money, maybe you'd look at it otherwise. But say he does stay in the Premier League,
176, yeah, sorry. 176.
and he has 5 more seasons, that means he's got to average something like 15 goals a season over 5 seasons in the Premier League. I think something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I think he could probably do that.
The thing I always think with, like, Shearer got 260, and Shearer basically missed 2 seasons, two and a half seasons really out for injury.
Right.
Now, how many I know Kane does get injured quite a bit, but he doesn't tend to miss full seasons, does he? And also, Kane's played his whole career in the Premier League. Shearer played his first senior career season before the Premier League, 2, I think.
I
Even,
don't know.
so.
He had a stint at Leyton Orient. I think you're forgetting. So
You know
well
what
looking beyond that.
my favourite thing on a side note, my favourite thing about Harry Kane's Wikipedia page, for anyone who wants to check it out, is that it says like his youth career, and it's like starts at Ridgeway Rovers, and then he moves from Ridgeway Rovers to Arsenal, but then he goes back to Ridgeway Rovers, and in my head that always makes it seem like Ridgeway Rovers have like outbid, like they've gone to him like, nah, come on Harry, come back, they put a big bid in for him, and yeah.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. Ridgeway Rovers. It was well backed at the time.
I wonder who else has made the move from Arsenal to Ridgeway Rovers in their career.
Yeah, so from my point of view, I would say now that I think he will, because I think in the modern day, like, he could probably carry on till he's about 34, maybe 33. He's definitely got, I reckon, 5 more seasons in him if he wanted to in the Premier League, and I think that it probably would get the averages. But saying that, it's not even. There's still a chance that even if he had like 5 solid seasons as a striker in the Premier League, that he wouldn't necessarily get it, which I think does obviously just show you what a pretty amazing record it is.
Yeah, I agree, Dobby. I think when you realise how many strikers have played in the Premier League, like, although it flatters his ego a lot, Shearer's, I think it hits home how good of a record it is. Like the amount of strikers that have come, like Rooney looked assert, didn't he? And he didn't get near it in the end. I know he shifted out of position slightly, but the fact that it always stays, and it stayed for, when did Shearer retire? 2006, was it, Jack?
Yeah.
So it's stood the test of time there. I think it'd be closer than you think, actually. I think I feel he will break it, but I think he might need to move to Man City to do that.
I feel like if he plays 3 seasons, probably not. But if he plays 4 more Premier League seasons and like fully, fit for majority of the games, I think he breaks it. Yeah, 4 more seasons will do it.
Okay, do you think he'll move this summer?
I think he will.
Yeah,
I think he's got to be hitting a point now where he's like, he's got to win some. He's got to want to win something, hasn't he? Surely. He said last summer he did, and he's obviously stuck about.
Yeah.
Maybe they hope that Conte can, like, if saying that, Conte's mind changes every week whether he's staying.
Whether
or
he
not.
fancies it.
Conte won't be there much longer.
No.
Yeah.
Would you rather be like the sort of one club man who's like, they could name a stand after Kane or a stadium after Kane in the future, or would you rather be, win at least 1 Premier League? I suppose that's the question.
It's tough, isn't it, really?
Also,
like,
I think he might score less weirdly if he goes to City. I know that sounds odd, but I feel like I'm not sure. It's like if he has to sort of link play and put it. I know he's not a good a striker, but it's not like Jesus bags in the goal. Do you know what I mean? Like, and he could also easily be dropped for City if he was out of form or Guardiola wanted to change the system and play false nine. You know, he's managed to do it this season, and they're romping. You know, they could still. It looks like they'll win the league. So, it sounds odd, but I could see him going to City and weirdly enough scoring less. But I might be wrong about that.
I think if I was him, I would be wanting that move. I think.
Yeah, just for sort of personal career pride and
yeah.
I think so because we're talking about one of like the top strikers in Europe. I think he should really be wanting to have some kind of like success, whether it's Champions League or Premier League. I think if you were talking about a different type of player or a different club, then
but then in terms of the record, I mean, the winning the league will mean nothing because like Shearer obviously spent years at Newcastle, and we had a few years where Shearer was there. We were pushing towards the challenging for the title, but I'd say the majority of his seasons were spent mid-table. So,
but he did win the Prem with Blackburn, though, didn't he? Like,
so he'd already got that ghosted. But I'd say the majority of Shearer's career was spent for a team not probably further away than what Tottenham are now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we'll see, won't we? I think he'll move this summer, personally. But
I think that's it then, boys. We're going to call time on the virtual bar tonight. But before we go, another thing that caught around Twitter, I think Tricey, you might have seen this first, is the Peter Schmeichel taking 442 readers' questions back in 2003. Hugh Davis, who was the journalist at that time, tweeted this out the other day and said he was being a bit, well, I don't want to say arsey, but and then goes into the questions. I'm just going to, these are a few of Peter Schmeichel's responses to what I feel are perfectly valid questions. He was asked, how good can your son Casper become? Are you a competitive dad? Do you shout and ball at him from the sidelines during matches? I don't want to go into that, was Schmeichel's response. Is it true that Nicky Butt once burnt your private parts with a teapot? How did you get him back, and did you see the funny side? His answer was, skip through that too. Whatever happens in the dressing room should stay there. We also had, is it true that David Beckham and Ryan Giggs filled your locker full of Dane Pack after you filmed that bacon ad? He's put, no, because we don't ever have lockers at Old Trafford. It's like he's gone into like this, the linguistical differences of what. Could pull them up on a technicality.
Why did he even post the article? Why did he even write it? Like, because all the questions are just, there's no answer, is there? Did he actually answer like one of them properly?
The closest we got to a proper answer is this, Tommy. This is the longest answer we got. Can you understand why United fans like myself were a little disappointed that you left us, saying that you didn't want to play in England anymore, but then came back? This is obviously when he'd gone back to Manchester City and Villa. His Schmeichel answer was, no, absolutely not, because I never did say I didn't want to play in England. What I said when I left United was that I didn't want to play that amount of games anymore. He then goes on, I feel insulted by this question, that he can be disappointed in me. After what I did for Manchester United, I should be able to do whatever I like in the future without him being disappointed in me. He's talking about the guy who's asked this. He's talking about Frank Sheffield from Stockport. He's asked this question. I mean, it goes on. I can't even read the full answer, but it's just ridiculous. Why do you think it didn't work out for your successor at Old Trafford, Mark Bosnich? Schmeichel's answer, no, I don't want to go into that. The next one, sorry, just one more. The last question he was asked, can you tell us your funniest Fergie story? No, not really.
Jesus Christ.
Tough day for the interviewer, that, I think.
It is. Yeah. That's a long day at the chalk face, that. But, yeah.
You could just tell as well, like, taking that back to the office. Like, what'd you get?
Fuck off.
Yeah.
He wasn't the chattiest.
I'm so glad that it actually made it though, so we can like enjoy it now rather than it just being like binned. Like, we can't put.
I've got a print deadline. I've got something that needs to go in there.
Oh, amazing! I hope that was just sat in like a drawer for a couple of months, and then it was got to like the August edition, like trying to fill a gap
Should
in,
be
trying to get
out.
that Schmeichel
Yeah.
article out. Yeah,
To be
go
fair,
on.
I surfed through some of the archive of 442, and some of those old interviews are absolutely class. There was one with like David Seaman, I think, that was just like ridiculous. Like it's just like laughing or taking or like having a go at the people that ask the questions as well. So probably one to come back to for us in the future. But yeah, that's it for tonight, boys. I can't go on after that. Thank you for joining us again, and we'll see you hopefully a bit of a less of a break now, and we'll get into these more regularly. But yeah, cheers, chaps. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, cheers, Jeff.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Doc.